Thanks for tuning in once again to the Ask the Pharmacist with Joe DiMatteo and our little live streams. Thanks for tuning in every week. I hope you are learning something each and every week. We try to take as many different topics as we can, and we'll continue to. And I'm sure at some point in time we'll run out of topics, so then we'll just start repeating them, I guess. But there's plenty to talk about. Today, headaches and migraines. Why? Probably the number one complaint. There are a lot of different issues. We'll talk about vascular headaches. We'll talk about non-vascular. Non-vascular, we'll talk about, is it more posture? Is it stress? Is it tension? Vascular, is there something going on with your platelets? Do you have a platelet aggregating disorder? Now, all of this, obviously, we always want to make sure that you're checked out medically, that you see a neurologist. You want to make sure there's nothing else medically, functionally wrong and disturbed. I'm not a medical doctor, so we always want to make sure that you're checked in that regard. But if you've been checked, you're actually in a protocol and you're still suffering and you're on medications and you're not finding some benefits, then we need to try to get more proactive, and that's the whole goal today. Before we do that, I want to read to you, we've kind of been focusing on the radio show, the Psalms, but there's a couple of scenarios specifically that I want to talk to you about today. Psalm 22:22 says, I will declare your name to my people in the assembly, and I will praise you. Now, Psalm 22:22 is about a declaration of God's name, and that was predicted, if you will, or prophesied, and it was fulfilled in the book of Hebrews. Now, I'm going to keep going on here. Psalm 45:6-7 is a direct prophecy back in the Psalm by David of Jesus or the Messiah. It says, your throne, O God, will last forever and ever. A scepter of justice will be the scepter of your kingdom. You love righteousness, you hate wickedness. Therefore, God, your God, has set you above your companions by anointing you with the oil of joy. A direct prophecy in direct relationship to the Messiah. Psalm 22:1-21 actually talks all about the crucifixion, the cross. My God, why have you forsaken me? What did Jesus say on the cross? Yet you are enthroned as the Holy One. In our ancestors, they put their trust. They trusted and you delivered them. This completely goes through and then winds up at about verse 14. My heart turned to wax, it melted within me. My mouth is dried like a potsherd. They attempted to give him something to drink, if you will, on the end of a stick on the cross. My mouth is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. You lay me in the dust. Dogs surround me. Packs of villains encircle me. All my bones are on display. People stare. They gloat over me. They divide my clothes amongst them. They cast lots for my garment. A direct prophecy of what would happen to the Messiah. If you look at this, if you look at these Psalms, there are numerous Psalms that he would be a descendant of David. Psalm 96, that he is David's son, yet David's Lord. Psalm 110, that in Psalm 110 as well, that he would be the eternal priest, eternal king. Psalm 118, he is rejected by many, but accepted by God. If you've not made peace with your Creator, I would sure hope that you would consider that. There's not multiple ways to God, there's one way. There's not multiple beliefs that allow access to eternity, there's but one. And the Bible's very, very clear. 700, 800 years, eons before, it was prophesied. His death, his burial, his resurrection. Read it for yourself. Go to Psalm 22, 23, 24, and there are multiple Psalms that talk exactly about Christ's death, burial, resurrection, who he was, who he would become, and as we talked about on the broadcast earlier, that he is the eternal God and he is the eternal King. Thanks for being with us. Headaches, migraines. We've covered weight issues. We've covered multiple different issues: exercise, energy, how to establish more of an exercise protocol, a little bit of weight. We've spent a couple weeks on weight. But today, something that is very disturbing to day-to-day function for most people in their lives is headaches and migraines. So, I don't want to get, I always tell you, I don't want to be real technical, but do we have this in the shot here? But what we really want to cover here today is to make sure that you understand that headaches and migraines, like what's involved? Well, initiation phase, stress, food allergies, food intolerance, muscular tension, poor posture, a lot of distress, tons of stress and distress can be a huge, huge problem. Dietary amines, we'll cover that. In the intestinal tract, could you have bad bacteria growing in your intestinal tract that converts tyrosine, to an amino acid, to tyramine, which is the same thing that is in pickled foods, aged foods, that are triggers for headaches and migraines. So my first point is the initiation of a headache. I'm going to lump them all together, all right? Headaches and migraines, because there are distinguishing factors, but again, I don't want this to be a dissertation on headache and migraines. I want it to be an application for headaches and migraines. So an initiation, stress, food allergies and sensitivities, muscular distress and tension, dietary amines in the gut, something, now watch this, that can trigger a increase catecholamine production. Now what are catecholamines? Catecholamines are noradrenaline, adrenaline. These are stress hormones, cortisol. Now what happens when catecholamines are released in our circulatory system? Platelet serotonin is released. You have serotonin in your platelets, by the way. There's a tremendous amount of serotonin that is released from the platelets. What happens now? The platelets aggregate. They become sticky, coagulative. This is more of a vascular. Okay, I'm going to talk about vascular, non-vascular. It leads to vasoconstriction, constriction of the artery beds, ischemia, lack of blood flow, trigger for headaches. What ensues? So you got initiators, then you've got the prodromal phase, all techie stuff, and then you've got the elicitation of a headache and migraine. So we don't want to focus on all of this, but you need to understand that there is a functional aspect, especially to vascular. Now, what am I talking about, vascular versus non-vascular? Well, vascular versus non-vascular typifies, to me, a non-vascular headache would be headaches that are triggered by something along the lines of stress, tension. See, if we have a lot of cervical tension and stress, you work at a computer, you're under a lot of stress all day long, and the musculature for your upper cervical region, base of your skull, the atlas to here, this is where we carry the bulk of our stress. That musculature tightens and tensions. When that happens, you put a tremendous amount of torque load on the cervical region, on the atlas, the upper cervical areas, the vertebrae. That's a big trigger for headaches and migraines. I'm going to talk to you about one of the ways I think you deal with that. So non-vascular, tension, stress, constipation, liver constipation, inability to move and mobilize toxins are a big, big reason for non-vascular. So let's just do this real quick. Vascular headaches are a lot of what we just talked about right here. Vascular meaning the circulatory system. So vascular versus non-vascular. So non-vascular has more of the muscle tension, okay? It has more of a postural issue. We talked about tyramine being released in the body, and I'll explain a little bit more about this. Misalignment, cervical, low melatonin. We'll cover that as well. And then you got the vascular, what we just talked about, which are more like cluster headaches, migraines. Female hormones are a big trigger for vascular. So female hormones are a big link and a big issue here. And there's platelet aggregation and serotonin release. And you say, this is all nonsense. I really don't want to talk about this because I just want to know what to do. Well, you have to understand what's at work in order for you to be able to apply some more holistic, more naturopathic approaches to trying to reduce headaches and migraines. So knowing what's at the root, in other words, say knowing what's at the root. Now, well, how would I know that? Well, you've gone to a neurologist and they've maybe done CT scans just to make sure that there's nothing going on structurally, and they've ruled that out. Praise God, they can't find anything. So they've tried you on medications, calcium channel blockers, maybe beta blockers, maybe the old version of tricyclic antidepressants. And sometimes those meds are now a version is to use something called topiramate, Topamax, and they'll titrate your dose up, start at 50, go to 100, maybe 150 milligrams. But most of these meds are very sedating. They make you very tired. They interrupt your thought process. They cognitively impair your thought process, your memory, your recall. So the whole point here is that you can use meds certainly to prevent as prophylactic, and certainly they may work, okay? But they have a lot of side effects, okay? So maybe sometimes these meds can work to prevent prophylactically. Okay, but what about if you have an attack? Well, you have all kinds of medications. You have triptan-based medications. The original one, I'm forgetting, it was sumatriptan, medications that you could use via injection, sublingually. I guess some of them were oral as well. What? To try to abort once you have a severe migraine. So you have the triptan family of meds. And then you have pain meds, but usually don't work. You know, you can use narcotics, I hate to say it, pain relievers along those lines. They typically don't really work all that well, but they're used. You have drugs like Fiorinol, Fioricet, vasoconstrictors with mild pain relieving preps. And then you have your typical over-the-counter OTC meds that contain non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs that contain some form of caffeine, may contain some form of aspirin. And caffeine is a vasoconstrictor. See, because once, notice in that vascular phase, I said you release platelets release serotonin, you have vasoconstriction as a result of the release of those compounds. Platelets are aggregating, they're sticking together, you're not getting blood flow. There's vasoconstriction, but then there's a rebound vasodilation, huge component for headaches. Then a lot of these meds try to reconstrict you. So, all right, so I can take meds to try to prevent. Topiramate, Topamax, even gabapentin, Neurontin, old versions of tricyclic antidepressants, beta blockers that are used for blood pressure, calcium channel blockers that are used for blood pressure and cardiac and heart issues, all can prevent. If that's not working for you, then you've got abortive meds. Triptan's the class, and I believe there's others, and not 100% versed in all my pharmacology today. And then you have just your plain old-fashioned pain meds. But you know what we have is a vicious cycle, right? We're going round and round, and I get a headache today, and I try to use the preventatives, and then I take meds to use the prophylactic, and then I use the ones to abort, and right? And around you go. We've got to get to the root. We want to try to get more to the core of this thing and to the root. Now, these OTC meds that many of you are addicted to for headaches and migraines are a huge problem, because then what ensues with especially, well, all three of these categories, triptans, pain meds, and over-the-counter pain, all three of these categories can lead to rebound. So rebound is a big problem, because rebound headaches are many times caused by repeated overusing of a lot of these over-the-counter prescriptive medications. You literally cause in many cases, a vasoconstriction, then a vasodilation. You reduce inflammation. Non-steroidals can help, by the way, but you create this cycle, this vicious cycle of around and around you go. All right, so now I talked about meds that are used, some of the triggers. I don't know that I covered them all. I'm going to probably cover more of them as we get into more of the answers as we move on here. Headaches and migraines. I've had a lot of people ask me, well, are they hereditary? You know, my mom had them. Are they hereditary? Well, a lot of cases there can be links, because you could have platelet disorders that lead to that. You could have hormonal disorders. And we'll talk about this. This is in particular with females. So let me just do this real quick. If a woman has headaches at the middle of a month of her cycles, and maybe sometimes more right near her period, there's an estrogen issue. She could have estrogen that's dropping when it's technically supposed to be high, and I shouldn't say surging. It'll surge more right before you release eggs from your ovary at your ovulation, and it still should be high, but just for sake of argument, low estrogen can be a trigger for hormonal headaches. We know that the other part of this is estrogen dominance in relationship to progesterone deficiency, big trigger. And medical people would tell you that this is the whole answer, so they'll put you on birth control pills or synthetic compounds. They can help, but actually I think it triggers other issues and headaches and migraines as well. I think you do a saliva hormone test. If yours are cyclical based around your hormones, we've got to do a female hormone panel and define if your estrogen and progesterone levels are an issue. I'll come back to the platelet issue. You say, well, you kind of look like you blew past that. You went right to the female hormones. I think that the platelet issue, I think the way to deal with that is with essential fatty acids, the omegas, being on an anti-inflammatory diet, an elimination diet. We don't want you to have sticky, clotty blood. I don't want you to bleed out if you have a cut. But if our blood is very sticky, procoagulative, I've got a lot of platelet aggregation, that is a trigger, as I showed you on that prodromal phase. That's a trigger for headaches and certainly migraines. So I'm going to come back to platelets, female hormones, big issue for vascular types of headaches. So my little note check, let's just make sure we covered some issue. I didn't cover low serotonin. Low serotonin is certainly a trigger for many people as well. That's more on that vascular side of headaches that we talked about. So what else? So we talked about female hormones, talked about platelet disorders. The non-vascular side, I talked about muscular tension, stress, release of stress hormones, and then that trips that whole phase as you move into headaches. Constipation, liver congestion. If you're a medical doc or a nurse practitioner or a PA, you'll disagree with that, but it's true. It's real. I'm going to get into the detail of that, but liver congestion, a lot of times are associated with, I believe it's left side or right-sided headaches, liver congestion. How do we say, what is that? That's not a medical condition. You have hepatitis C, liver. No, a lot of people have liver congestion because of a poor diet, too much white refined products, not enough fiber, not enough vegetables and fruits, poor bacteria. Your liver, our livers become overwhelmed. Just look at the chemicals. You realize there's probably about 2,500 to 3,000 chemicals, new ones, every single year that are made. What about cleaning agents that you just clean your countertops with? What about what's in our ceilings and in our carpeting? What about bathroom cleaning agents? What about wipes and these? I mean, the list goes on. Sealants, working on your car. People spray herbicides and pesticides around their homes and in their homes. They're many times sprayed in buildings where you work. Are you kidding me? Our livers are so overloaded, it's almost criminal. Our livers are just working double and triple overtime. When our livers are congested, or we have constipation and liver congestion, that's a huge trigger for headaches because you're not filtering chemicals and toxins from your system efficiently. And if you're not, you say, oh, okay, well, here comes the detox protocol. No, not really. We should do some things, but pardon my French, but we got to get you pooping. We got to get you moving your bowels, for goodness sake. We got to get your liver decongested, and there's a lot of good natural preps that we can use to do that. But the key is to me is about creating some balance. You say, wait a minute, this is about headaches. Well, you'll see at the end that this is about creating balance, about how we manage our stress, about how well we hydrate, about managing hypoglycemia, about dealing with food allergies, food sensitivities, big trigger, I'm losing things, food allergies. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, and neck stretches. I will talk to you about neck stretches today. If you have the non-vascular types of headaches, and you say, geez, I'm okay, but once I get in the middle of the day and I'm at work, I just start to feel, my neck like tighten up. You need to see a good chiropractor first of all, and we got to start stretching your neck. I do neck stretches almost every day. Big trigger for the non-vascular headaches. So big things. Migraines can be a little bit maybe more genetic. You can have platelet aggregating disorders. You could have, in other words, blood flow issues that trigger the migraine, even in barometric pressure changes. These types of lights, fluorescent lights, are a big trigger for some people. So those vascular types, but here's what I'm going to say to you. You could have a trigger for vascular types of headaches, but I guarantee you that if you're under a lot of stress and you got muscular tension and you're dehydrated because you don't drink enough water and you drink caffeine all day and you skip meals or you don't eat quality meals and you eat a lot of sugars and carbs and you have hypoglycemic tendencies or you got food allergies, you got liver congestion, I'm telling you what, you will have more vascular, and they're treating you medically for your vascular types of headaches. But if this part of you is imbalanced, the non-vascular headaches will be a trigger to the vascular side. You can take that to the bank. So, all right, we've covered vascular, non-vascular. What do you say we think about going to a break here in a few minutes? I say we go to a break because I get a little concerned that we cover so much information that we overwhelm you. And I don't want to overwhelm anybody. So, cool, we'll do that. Don't want to overwhelm you. Josiah, just as a reminder, we need to send your emails. You got a question, send your emails. Josiah's here. He's going to relay them to me, and we'll try to answer them, maybe specifically about maybe meds you might be using if you have headaches, migraines. But hopefully, and you can send us emails for feedback. If I'm getting too complex or, Joe, you're too long-winded, I know I am. You can tell me that. Don't talk to me about all this stuff. I would always try to tell you, I got to talk to you about some of this stuff because I got to get you to understand. I feel like I can't just get you to do a protocol if you don't understand why you're doing it. Because if you do it for a week or two and you do the next stretches and you hydrate and you take a couple of supplements and it doesn't work after a week, you quit. See, I believe if you understand more of the mechanics, you won't quit. So you won't give up because you understand that you're after the root issues and it might take you weeks and months to begin to turn and change the process. So, hey, send your questions, email at support or support at askjoedimatteo.com, right on the website there, right at our web. Josiah will pick them up. We'll answer them. Don't forget, next week, I know I'm dating this program. So next Saturday, this is live right now. What is today, May 3rd? So I'm doing this, I'm dating everything. If you're watching this a year from now, disregard these next few comments. May 3rd, here in 2014, here we are on a Saturday doing the live broadcast. Next Saturday, we'll do a live stream, not right here in the office. We're going to be live streaming actually our open house. We'll have an open house, and we're going to be having numerous folks come through and just little 5-10 minute interviews on everything from chiropractic to lasers to skin types of things to skin therapies. We have a pretty much an all-natural skin therapy line. We'll be having some cosmetologists talk to you about skin issues. Dr. Zelke will be here. We got a lot of things. Pain management, IV vitamin C.
Headache, migraines, we got a chiropractor.
That's exactly right. Seth Hornack will be here. Doc Seth will be here next Saturday as well. If you've got chronic headaches and migraines, we might even, I don't know that we're going to we're going to do any interactive things that day. I don't know if we'll be able to. It might be a bit much to do something interactive, but you can fire away your questions. At breaks, we'll try to answer some of those questions as well. So next week, live streaming the open house. If you live locally here in the tri-state area, come on in, refreshments, food, specials, and we'll probably run in some specials for you guys as well across the nation. Stay tuned. We're going to go to a break. Couple of minutes, we're coming back and we're going to kind of draw this all together and how do you prevent future headaches and migraines. Christian Stanfill and that little worship tape CD that you just viewed, and hopefully this broadcast weekly is a blessing to you. Tell your friends, tell your relatives about it, and if some of them have headaches or they suffer from migraines or they're battling some weight issues or they just don't know how to engage in an exercise program and protocol, we've got multiple teachings that we've done, multiple live streams. You go to the website, right at that live stream button, there's an archive section. So you just tab onto the archives, and it'll bring up past shows that we have done. Right now, we are running some specials. We have a new intro, a new product, the Essential Meal Plus, which should go up on the website very, very soon. We'll have it available to you within the next day or two. Essential Meal Plus. Why the Essential Meal Plus? Why we come out with that? It's an all vegan formula. It is loaded with fiber, so it'll stabilize your blood sugars. All vegetarian, pumpkin, pea protein, rice proteins, medium chain triglyceride oils, no artificial sweeteners, no artificial colors and dyes, very clean, a little bit of pure cane sugar, unprocessed cane sugar is a little bit of a sweetening agent. Very nice. You want to lose weight, replace the meal, make a smoothie with some almond milk, no sugar added. Almond milk is 180 calories. Very inexpensive. It'll work out to anywhere, depending if we're running a special, anywhere from $1.50 to $1.65 a meal. So literally, if you're looking to lose some weight and you replaced 2 of your meals a day, you made smoothies, you got it up about $1.65. If you add some frozen berries, you calculate that in. I mean, inexpensive, a perfect meal replacement, Essential Meal Plus. Take a look at it on the website. Okay, let's go back to headaches and migraines. We'll go back to these triggers. We've got to, if you're suffering from headaches or you get intermittent migraines, we've got to identify the triggers. Now, they could be, we'll go through these, they could be stress. Well, geez, how do I get rid of my goofy boss and, some of the crazy coworkers or my 3 children and all the stress they put me? I don't know. I mean, I deal with a lot of those same stressors. Some of you have much more mega stress in your life than that. And I feel that in part, where you begin certainly is here daily and really pursuing God, praise and worship every day. Not only just reading your Bible, maybe reading some Psalms and Proverbs out loud, pursuing Him. As you pursue Him, I believe your day becomes ordered. It helps us to deal with much of the stress. What happens when we're under high stress? Back at the beginning, it causes a release of catecholamines, stimulatory hormones. It interferes with platelet aggregation. It causes a vasoconstriction, ischemia, meaning lack of blood flow. It's a trigger for headaches and migraines. Stress. How do we handle that? Deep breathing, the scripture, stretching, which I'll get to. Poor posture, another issue. I have this issue. From being at a desk all day, working with I have a tendency to roll sometimes we just work with Seth and Andy Huey, our chiropractors. They have me doing things where I put my shoulders back and my head to the wall. Literally, just to stretch out, right? Sometimes we just got to, and I'll get to some neck stretches later and how you do some neck stretches. This releases a lot of this cervical tension and distress. Poor posture, big issue. Have not talked much about food allergies. And I will tell you, this is a big problem. Food allergies are probably attributing to about 80% of folks' headaches and migraines today. So eventually, you need to do what we call an ELISA-ACT test to identify your food sensitivities. But in the interim, we put folks on a modified elimination diet. It's a clean diet, no chemicals, no sulfites, no MSGs, lean proteins, plenty of vegetables, fruit. You don't do processed foods, you don't do packaged foods. You just go on this for about 6 weeks to lower the trigger threshold, because many times folks' threshold over the course of time lowers. What I mean by that, what could trigger, maybe it took this much of a trigger in the course of your day to trigger a headache and a migraine in your past. Now, your ceiling is here. It's taking less. So a lot of times I believe we have a threshold is lowered because of the multiple insults. See, I think one thing I want you to take away, if you're looking for one single answer, oh, Joe has some magical supplement for me to take. No. You've got to see this once again as the whole picture. Managing your stress, dealing with poor posture, modified elimination diet. Don't drink alcohol. If you're drinking alcohol, it's a big trigger for headaches and migraines. Big trigger. Fermented alcohol products. I don't even want to get into it, but tyramine, aged products, fermented pickled products, big trigger for headaches and migraines. Sulfites that are in wines, make your pick, make your choice here. MSG, I just mentioned the sulfites. metabisulfites, etc. Huge trigger for many, many folks. Lowers the threshold. Your headaches will be triggered. Gluten intolerance, gluten sensitivities. Big problem here. A lot of folks have wheat and gluten intolerances, and it's a trigger for headaches and migraines. So you might need to consider going on this modified elimination and eliminating wheat to the degree that you can. Now, some of you are listening and you're thinking, well, I've done this, and I've really tried to eliminate all the sulfites and the MSG and the alcohol, and it didn't help me. Well, notice this is a plan. All right? This is a plan. You don't pluck one of these out. Oh, I'm going to deal like with the poor posture that Joe has, and I'm going to deal with that too. No, you got to deal with this. I got to have you reading some Psalms and praise and worshiping. I got to have you do a modified elimination. Get rid of the alcohol. Don't let your blood sugars become imbalanced. If you've got hypoglycemic tendencies because you skip meals, that's a big trigger. Blood sugars drop. Watch this. Blood sugars drop. You release cortisol in many cases and catecholamines. Oops. I don't know what that is. I used that word before at the beginning. That was a trigger, right? For the vascular migraines. You have blood sugars drop. You have low energy to the mitochondria, low energy to the brain. You release cortisol. You release catecholamines. Trigger for headaches and migraines. So you could be doing 1, 2, 3, 4 things right, but you're too busy and you just keep skipping meals. You still got a trigger. You say, well, that's too much. No, it's not. Stretch. I'll show you how to stretch. Aware of your posture. Go on an elimination diet. Get rid of the junk in your life. Do not skip meals. Don't eat a lot of sugar. That's just as bad. You see, you follow the rationale here. It's got to be a protocol. Mitochondrial energy. They have found, especially in young athletes, that low mitochondrial energy using things like riboflavin and high doses of coenzyme Q10, I didn't bring out the riboflavin, can raise mitochondrial energy. This appeared actually in the Journal of Neurology about 6-7 years ago, maybe 8. And magnesium, the right forms of magnesium, especially in young athletes, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds with chronic migraines when they exert themselves, and even adults upon exertion, you got low mitochondrial energy. That's a trigger for a headache or a migraine. So you've got to use nutrients that energize your mitochondria. And what would they be? Good forms of CoQ, absorbable forms of magnesium, riboflavin. You say, well, there you go again. I don't know about all this stuff. Well, we have one prep called, and I'll list it up here for you in a minute, Migrainol, that we're out of, that I can't show you, ironically. How foolish is that? How stupid is that? That I'm out of it. That combines tenacitum, feverfew, that has curcuminoids, a natural anti-inflammatory. Remember I told you non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs can help you with headaches, but they create rebound. Curcumin, a natural anti-inflammatory, doesn't create rebound, can help you. But this Migrainol has a combination of riboflavin, a little bit of magnesium, not enough. You still got to use some of the mag essentials. No CoQ, but tenacitum, feverfew, curcumin. You say, oh, I've used that. Just hear me. Just listen. Riboflavin, there's 4 or 5 ingredients in there. Then you take additional magnesium, and then I'll talk to you about Petacites hybridis, and I'll be shocked, and we get you on some melatonin at bedtime, I'll be shocked if we can't help, but I still believe that you've got to do all of these things. Well, I listed them all out. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Mitochondrial energy, managing rebound, hormonal changes in women. So we could be doing all of this, but if your hormones are off, your progesterone is low, your estrogen is dominating, or your estrogen is dropping at the middle of the month, boom, trigger for a headache when it's supposed to be rising. Later in the month, it's supposed to maintain a little bit before it drops. Maybe it's dropping precipitously, another trigger for a headache. So I could be doing all of this, but then I still get 2 major migraines. So we need to do a saliva hormone panel. So do you follow me? It's a plan. I mean that. This is why when we do consultations with you folks say, oh, well, I can't, I don't know that I want to do that because then it costs me money. Yoy. And then can he just recommend something for me? Well, I can certainly, you just want to take something. That's certainly your prerogative. But then you're going to say, well, Yeah, I listened to Joe's show, and I did a couple things he recommended on those supplements, and they really didn't help my migraines. Well, the reality of it is you're asking, excuse me, those preps to completely override things that you're doing wrong. You say, wait a minute, a lot of other people do those things, and they don't have headaches and migraines. There are some of this that we just don't know. Some of you are more genetically predisposed, unfortunately. All right, we're going to be running out of time, so I want to make sure that I move on here to the last phase. What's the last phase? All right, last phase now is the most important phase, which is, not prevention. What do I say? The protocol. What do you do? Exercise, number one. Do you know literature shows that if you regularly exercise, don't overdo it, but if you regularly exercise, you can reduce the incidence of headaches and migraines by 50%. You oxygenate tissue, you raise mitochondrial energy, you improve detoxification. Exercise. You hydrate. Hydrate. Well, I drink water. I'm talking about drinking water throughout the course of the day. Dehydration, a huge trigger. You can't say, oh my gosh, it's 3:30, I've had appointments, I've been on the road, I've been with my kids, I picked up the kids at school, and I forgot. I don't think I've drank any water. So now Joe said I got to hydrate, so I'll just go drink 2 liters of water that I have in my... No, you got to be pulsing the water throughout the course of the day. And I always say, 9 to 10 a.m., 1 to 2 p.m., 5 to 6 p.m. You should be pulsing your water throughout the course of the day. So hydration becomes a key issue. The neck stretches, real quick. What do? I say you first of all put your palms straight forward, facing forward, shoulders back, shoulders down. Don't do this. Shoulders down. And you literally take your chin to your neck, roll, and then your ear, breathe. Exhale as far down to your shoulders as possible. Take your arm like this. Hold your shoulder. Both directions. Got to do them longer than this. It actually will hurt at first. Take your right wrist, grasp it with your left hand, hold it like a chicken wing to the side that you're holding. Like right now, I can feel all of this stretching, cervical stretches. Big deal. I'm going to answer that email, by the way, that gal. Cervical neck stretches. There's a lot more that you can do, but palms down, shoulders relaxed. These are the basics. I do these every day. They're very, very helpful. They loosen a lot of this tension that is a trigger for headaches and migraines. Hydration, exercise. I don't care if you go out and walk for 30 minutes. That's what you need to do. You need to hydrate and pulse your water through the course of the day. You need to do neck stretches because many of you develop these headaches. They start many times 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon. Tension and stress accumulates through the course of the day. This locks up. Now we have the threshold's been exceeded. Okay, food elimination. We have what's called the MOD diet, the modified elimination diet. Big thing. So say, I can't do all this. Yes, you can. You're going to drink some more water consistently. You're going to start walking 20 to 30 minutes. You're going to take about 4 to 5 minutes and do these neck stretches in the morning and 4 to 5 minutes at night. Huge help. Don't go backwards. It's all this direction, pulling. All right. Food elimination. Female hormones. For the women, you have to do a ZRT panel. We have to see what your hormones. We might even have you do, if you're really having issues, we might have you do diagnostics, and they do a saliva sample. You do about, I believe it's about 12 during the course of the month. So you'll do on day 3, day 5, day 6 or 7, day 3, 5, 8. You'll just do them every 2 to 3 days through the course of the month so we can follow what's happening from a hormonal standpoint with you. We want to plot your hormones, all right? So female hormones become a big issue. We have to define, do not let your blood sugars drop. Glycemic index. You've got to eat vegetables, fruits. You've got to eat protein with each meal. have fiber, have some fat. Don't let your blood sugars drop. So glycemic index is a big issue. Next, I would say bowel toxicities. Many of you are you're constipated. We got to get you on some buffered C. We've got to get you maybe on some basic liver support for a period of time and probiotics. Got to get you moving your bowels, releasing some of the stress on your liver. Why? Because a congested liver, you don't filter and process toxins. That becomes a trigger many times for headaches. So what do we have so far? Exercise, even if it's walking or a treadmill or a stationary or a recumbent bike. Hydration is critical. Neck stretches, brutally critical. Go on an elimination diet. If you're a woman, you've got to do a female hormone panel. Don't skip meals. Reduce the amount of sugars and whites and refines that you eat. We've got to kind of clean up the gut. So there's some, are there more things here? Absolutely. But let me get into the real specifics because I want to end this basically. Well, I would say for the platelet side of this, and platelet, we got to get you on omegas. Our omega 800s. Okay? Omega 800s, maybe 2 twice a day. How about some melatonin at bed? 3 to 6 milligrams. I didn't get into this, but low melatonin is associated with migraines. Low melatonin levels. So low melatonin, I got to get you on some mag essentials. I would have you use 2 in the AM. As long as you don't have any kidney issues or renal damage, I need to qualify that, 3 to 4 at bedtime. All right, so magnesium, melatonin, omega, and we use this prep called Migranol, which I don't have and I can't display for you. 2 twice a day. All right, so some omegas, melatonin at bed. Magnesium is probably one of your key players, by the way. Migranol at 2 twice a day. What else do I have? I'm sure I have some other things. Well, the key ingredients that I wanted are contained in here. The riboflavin, the tenacitin. Oh, and some CoQ. CoQ10 for many folks, especially with young children, young people. CoQ 200. We use the Japanese source, 200 milligrams daily. And thank you so much. How did you find this?
Because I'm putting it on the website soon.
You're amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Omega 800s. Okay, we're just switching one of our source, smaller capsules, by the way, for the Omega 800s. Smaller. Wonderful. Brand new. Migranol. Why do I love this prep? Migranol. We have some physicians actually that refer people down here. Riboflavin, I told you, for cellular energy. A little bit of magnesium, not quite enough, but it's a good form of aspartate. You still got to use additional mag essentials. It's got some rosemary extracts, anti-inflammatory, they're standardized, curcuminoid complexes, and that tenacitin. This is feverfew, 300 milligrams in 3 capsules. A great combination. So now, you say, why didn't you just tell me this at the beginning? Because if I just tell you to take these supplements and you don't do the other things, we still have problems, honestly and truly. So you say, well, geez, why don't I just take just the melatonin at first? No, platelets, low melatonin associated with migraines. Low magnesium status may be the biggest association with headaches and migraines. So that's a no-brainer. I use about 6 mag essentials a day. I use 2 in the morning and 3, anywhere from 3 to 4 at night. I mean, I use a lot of magnesium. There's a lot of issues with magnesium. The Migranol is combination. You say, well, this is a lot of supplements. No, it's not. Some of you should already be doing this. The melatonin is an inexpensive add-on. Good forms, $12. I mean, it's not. The magnesium, $20-some for a bottle of 180, the good form, an absorbable form of magnesium. The Migranol, which I think is a phenomenal prep. So some of these things you should kind of already be doing for your general health anyway, and then you splice in some of these other support agents. You throw some additional melatonin in, but then you got to follow. That's why I wrote it over here. You got to follow some of the things I talked about. Your hydration, your neck stretch is critical. Your food elimination. Find out what your female hormones are doing. Let's get your bowel health right. Get your bowels moving. Don't skip meals. Balance your glycemic load and get you walking and exercising. And I think we covered it. Now, this one gal had a question. Dawn had questions about, she has them at night. She wakes up with them.
So
Okay, headaches. This is Donna. Haven't had a consultation with you for a while. You bless my life daily more than you could ever imagine. Thank you. I don't think I want to read anymore, but thank you. Praise God. However, what I wanted to ask you today is I frequently wake up with severe headaches. They last most of the day. They are located across the entire back of my head. I've been adjusted by Andy. Praise God. Andy Yu, he's a great brother in the Lord. He's such a legitimate guy. He's a great chiropractor. He adjusts me when I'm down there. I eat mostly whole foods, organic. No meds except for low-dose naltrexone. Topical 7-keto pregnenolone. That's good. Progesterone. Hydroxycobalamin. God bless you. Thank you. And you'll be listening to me later today. Thanks, Donna. What I would say here is let's do some neck stretches at bedtime. Let's do about 5 to 8 minutes of some deep breathing and some neck stretches. I mean, legitimate. If we have to, I have copies of how to do this in our file drawer here. Maybe Terry can get you a copy. You've got to do them. I would actually do them morning and evening. And I wonder about your dreaming, and I wonder about how much stress or what you're containing through the course of the day. If you're not doing the melatonin, let's add 6 milligrams of melatonin as well. Before we do any L5-HTP, which I didn't even mention that. L5-HTP can play huge here for a lot of people with headaches and migraines. Forgot that.
She said she takes all those supplements and drinks water all day long.
Well, it takes melatonin, magnesium, everything. You do it all. Are you doing the stretches? Then we got to get you doing the neck stretches. If you're not, you got to do about 2 to 3, 4 weeks of that. And I'd like to see what happens. And if not, then I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to you got to re-talk to Andy about what else is going on up there. I would do the neck stretches. I would talk to him about some cervical stretches that you should do. It might be AM and PM. Keep doing what you're doing. All else fails, then we got to do the ELISA Act food elimination diet for you. Well, we're already way over our time. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've learned something. I'm getting very hot with these lights, so we're going to end. God bless you. Thanks for being with us. Take a look at the website. We've got some new products, some new things up there for you. The live stream. Next week, we're live streaming the open house event. I hope you tune in. For those of you that physically can't make it here, I would sure hope that you tune in for a few minutes. Get a chance to meet our staff. It'll connect you with us. I feel many of you are connected to me via the radio and these live streams. And we got a great staff. We got some. I'm so blessed. I have some great people work. Everything from Diane to Josiah to my sons to my mother-in-law to our cosmetologist. Man, I'm going to leave people out here, but Terry. We just have great Joyce Gibb, our nurse practitioner. We just got great people. I'd like for you to meet them. Doc Seth. We don't have Andy Huey coming up to this because he's all the way in the South Hills, the end of Pittsburgh, the other end of the city. But I would hope you would enjoy tuning in with us. And also, we're trying to uptick. We're going to make some changes in our website. Diane will be talking about that. We don't want you to get alarmed and scare you. It's improvements. And what we're also trying to do on a daily basis, Diane has been doing some daily blogging. We're importing some information. We want to keep you up to, we want you to go there we want to start to educate you more and more and more. I try to educate you 6 days a week. We're going to put some of that into print. I think if over time I'd like to become even more sophisticated with that as well. God bless you. May you be blessed today. Hope you have a great afternoon. Thanks for tuning in and being with us.